My sister publicly humiliated me after I risked my life to save her from abuse, so I kicked her to the curb. 3 years later, she's at my doorstep, desperate for me to take her in. My parents always favored me over my little sister, and it broke my heart. I didn't even notice it until I was 9 years old. It was Christmas time, and all the gifts were neatly wrapped with ribbons and personalized tags. Except when I got to the last gift, I realized all of them were for me. "Where are Lily's?" I asked. That's when they pointed to a black bin bag. I saw tears form in Lily's eyes, but she opened it anyway. Inside was an envelope which was a list of instructions on how she could improve her grades. Well, 9-year-old me wasn't having it. "Mommy, this isn't fair. Lily deserves a real gift." "Shut the F up," she cut me off. Meanwhile, my dad started yelling at the top of his voice, "Don't tell me how I should raise my kids." But as soon as they weren't looking, I hugged her, and we spent the entire morning secretly playing with my new toys together. This set the tone for the rest of our childhood. To my parents, Lily was the definition of a disappointment. So even when she did things like forget to do her chores or accidentally sleep in on the weekend, they never let it slide. My dad would either force us all to completely ignore her for 48 hours straight, or she'd only be given dry toast to eat for the whole week. All rules which I, of course, broke when they weren't looking. So when she turned 15 and got a boyfriend, I didn't tell anyone, because I was the only one she trusted, and there was no way I was breaking that. But one night, she came to my door crying her eyes out, and that's when she took out an easy-at-home pregnancy stick, with double lines. My mind jumped into problem-solving mode. I told her we could live with our aunt for a while, that I'd tell my parents I was the one who was pregnant. I knew she didn't understand what my plan was, but I didn't care, because she was safe, and that's all that mattered. She slept in my bed, and the next morning I woke my parents up, pinching myself to fake cry. "Mom, Dad, I'm pregnant." My dad looked like he wanted to lay hands on me, but then looked at my stomach and decided against it. "I effing told you Lily would be a bad influence on her," was the first thing my mom said. "We'll be out of your hair in a few hours. We're gonna stay with Auntie Lisa until—" "Damn right you are," my dad said. I retreated to the bedroom, and me and Lily tried to pack up our things as fast as we could before ordering an Uber. In the car when Lily cried, I noticed barcode marks all along her wrist. My chest tightened, but I just stayed silent, not saying anything. Unfortunately, I couldn't get her to stop crying by the time we arrived, and we were forced to tell Aunt Lisa everything. But instead of screaming at us, or telling our parents, she gave us a hug, told us she understood, that she knew our parents were crazy, and that it was only a matter of time before we turned to her for help. I smiled, and in that moment, I knew I had done good for my sister. In the next 2 weeks, Lily had a successful baby unalive, and Auntie Lisa managed to convince our parents to let us come home. That's when something I never expected to happen, happened. Lily was the new golden child. The entire wall of photos that used to feature our family was now filled with pictures of Lily that I had never even seen before. And for dinner, I was the one getting the borderline expired food no one wanted, while Lily got freshly cooked meals. Honestly, the whole thing made me smile, because all I wanted was for Lily to experience some sort of loving family, even if it was at my expense. But Lily betrayed me. Whenever they were talking about how filthy and unpure I was for getting pregnant, she'd join in. "It's weird how I'm the younger one, yet I'm the one who's more responsible," she'd say with a laugh. At first I let it slide because I thought she was just covering her tracks. But then came Thanksgiving. The entire family was over, and she clinked her water glass with a fork. I just want to thank my parents for making sure I turned out so responsible and smart, because the last thing I'd want is to end up like Laura over here, pointing to me. The entire crowd snickered, and she kept going. I mean, I can't imagine putting your whole life on the line just because you couldn't keep your legs closed. My mom was laughing so hard the champagne nearly came out of her nose. I was about to chime in, but my dad said through gritted teeth at a volume only I could hear, "Don't even think about it." So I just gulped and stayed silent. As the house cleared out, everyone congratulated my parents on what an excellent job they did at raising Lily, as if I hadn't been the one to raise her. So I decided to play the long game. And a few days later, the doorbell finally rang. It was CPS. You see, I had made an anonymous report on everything my parents had ever done to Lily. So when it was time for my interview, I laid it all out for them. No truth was left untold. I was hoping they'd take Lily, or me, away, but instead they just left and said they'd be back for a surprise home visit. As soon as the door closed, I found out my parents had heard everything I said. What they did next is something I still get nightmares about. My dad's face was a shade of red I'd never seen before. His eyes were bulging out of his head, and his fists were clenched so tight his knuckles were white. My mom just stood there, completely still, her face blank in that scary way that always meant the worst was coming. I backed up against the wall, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "You ungrateful little bitch," my dad finally said, his voice eerily calm. That was scarier than if he'd been yelling. "After everything we've done for you." I wanted to laugh at that. Everything they'd done for me? Like what, exactly? Giving me presents while starving my sister? Treating me like the golden child while making her life hell? But I kept my mouth shut. I wasn't stupid. I didn't say anything that wasn't true. I managed to get out, my voice shaking despite my best efforts. My mom finally moved, walking toward me with slow, deliberate steps. "You've always been such a disappointment," she said, which was rich coming from her after years of telling me I was the only good thing she'd ever done. "We give you everything, and this is how you repay us?" I glanced toward the stairs, wondering if I could make a run for it, but my dad was blocking the way. Lily was nowhere to be seen, probably hiding in her room, and I couldn't blame her. "Go to your room," my dad finally said. "We'll deal with you later." I didn't need to be told twice. I bolted up the stairs, locking my bedroom door behind me even though I knew it wouldn't keep them out if they really wanted to get in. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely text Aunt Lisa. CPS came. Parents heard everything. "Help." She responded immediately. "Stay calm. Don't antagonize them. I'm coming tomorrow." Tomorrow felt like a lifetime away. I sat on my bed, listening to my parents arguing downstairs, their voices rising and falling but never quite loud enough for me to make out the words. After about an hour, I heard footsteps on the stairs and held my breath, but they passed my door and went to Lily's room instead. I pressed my ear against the wall we shared, straining to hear. "Your sister's fault," I heard my dad say. "She's always been jealous of you." I couldn't hear Lily's response, but whatever she said made my parents laugh. My stomach twisted into knots. Had she really turned on me that completely? After everything I'd done for her? I didn't sleep that night. night. I kept waiting for my door to burst open, for my parents to drag me out of bed and I don't know what, but nothing happened. The house was quiet, too quiet, like the calm before a storm. In the morning, I waited until I heard my parents moving around downstairs before I ventured out of my room. I needed to pee so bad my bladder felt like it was about to explode. I made it to the bathroom and back without seeing anyone, but when I opened my bedroom door again, Lily was standing there. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she hissed, pushing past me into my room and closing the door behind her. "Why would you tell CPS all that stuff?" I stared at her, not believing what I was hearing. "Are you serious right now? After everything they did to you? They're better now," she said, not meeting my eyes. "They treat me good. You're just jealous because you're not the favorite anymore." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Jealous? I pretended to be pregnant for you. I took the fall so you wouldn't have to. And now you're acting like I'm the bad guy?" Lily's face hardened, but there was something in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or conflict. "Yeah, well, maybe I didn't ask you to do that. Maybe you just wanted to play the hero." Before I could respond, there was a knock at the front door downstairs. We both froze, listening. I heard my mom's fake cheerful voice, the one she used for company, and then Aunt Lisa's familiar tone. Relief flooded through me. "That's Aunt Lisa," I said. "She's going to help us." Lily's eyes widened in panic. "You called her? Are you crazy? Dad's going to unalive you. He's not going to do anything with Aunt Lisa here," I said, more confident than I felt. "Come on, let's go downstairs." But Lily shook her head. "I'm not going anywhere with you. You're trying to ruin everything." She stormed out of my room, leaving me standing there in shock. After everything, she was choosing them over me. I took a deep breath and headed downstairs, my legs feeling like jelly. Aunt Lisa was sitting in the living room with my parents, a cup of untouched coffee in front of her. When she saw me, relief washed over her face, but she kept her expression neutral. "Laura, honey," my mom said in that fake sweet voice. "Your aunt just stopped by to check on us. Isn't that nice?" I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. My dad was watching me like a hawk, his eyes promising consequences if I said the wrong thing. "I thought maybe the girls might want to come stay with me for a few days," Aunt Lisa said casually. "School's out for spring break, and I could use some company." "That's very kind of you," my mom said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "But we have family plans." "Actually," I said, finding my voice, "I'd really like to go with Aunt Lisa." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. My dad's jaw tightened, but before he could say anything, Lily came bounding down the stairs. "Aunt Lisa!" she exclaimed, all smiles and sunshine. "I didn't know you were coming over." Aunt Lisa looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. "I was just inviting you girls to stay with me for a few days." "Oh, that sounds fun," Lily said, but then she glanced at our parents. "But Mom and Dad already promised to take me shopping for new clothes this weekend." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was choosing new clothes over getting away from this house? But then I saw the fear behind her eyes, the way she was carefully positioning herself away from our dad, and I understood. She was scared. She'd learned to survive by playing their game. "Well, maybe just Laura then," Aunt Lisa suggested, looking at me with concern. My dad cleared his throat. "Actually, Laura's grounded. She's been telling some pretty serious lies lately." Aunt Lisa's eyebrows shot up. "Is that so?" "It's not a lie," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "Everything I told CPS was true." The room went dead silent. My mom's fake smile vanished, and my dad half rose from his chair before catching himself. "I think," Aunt Lisa said slowly, "that Laura should come with me today, just to give everyone some space to cool down." "She's not going anywhere," my dad said firmly. Aunt Lisa stood up, her full height making her almost as tall as my dad. "James, I'm not asking. I'm telling you that Laura is coming with me today." I held my breath, watching the standoff. My dad looked like he wanted to explode, but something in Aunt Lisa's eyes must have warned him off. "Fine," he finally spat. "Take her. She's nothing but trouble anyway." I ran upstairs to grab some clothes, my hands shaking with relief. As I was throwing stuff into a backpack, Lily appeared in my doorway again. "You're really leaving?" she asked, her voice small. "Come with me," I pleaded. "Aunt Lisa will protect both of us." She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I can't. You don't understand." "Then help me understand." She glanced over her shoulder, then stepped into my room, closing the door behind her. "Dad said if I don't play along, he'll hurt you. He said he'd make it look like an accident." My blood ran cold. "What?" "That's why I've been saying all that stuff. I thought if I was mean enough to you, you'd stay away and be safe." A tear slid down her cheek. "But now you've made him really mad, and I don't know what he's going to do." I hugged her tight, feeling her thin shoulders shaking. "Come with me," I whispered again. "Please." But she pulled away, wiping her eyes. "I can't. Just go. Be safe." I finished packing in a daze, my mind racing. If what Lily said was true, my dad was even more dangerous than I thought. I needed to get her out too. But how? Downstairs, Aunt Lisa was waiting by the door, car keys in hand. My parents stood nearby, my mom's arms crossed, my dad's face still red with anger. "We'll see you soon, Laura," my mom said, the threat clear in her voice. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. As Aunt Lisa and I walked to her car, I felt my dad's eyes burning into my back. I didn't breathe properly until we were driving away, the house disappearing behind us. "Are you okay?" Aunt Lisa asked once we were on the main road. I burst into tears, all the fear and tension of the past 24 hours pouring out of me. Between sobs, I told her everything. About the pregnancy test, about taking the blame, about how Lily had changed, and finally, what she'd just told me about our dad's threats. Aunt Lisa's knuckles were white on the steering wheel by the time I finished. "We need to get Lily out of there," she said firmly. "How?" "She won't come willingly." "I'm going to call CPS again," she said. "With what you've told me, they should be able to remove both of you immediately." But when we got to Aunt Lisa's house and she made the call, it wasn't that simple. The CPS worker explained that without direct evidence of abuse, they couldn't just remove Lily, especially since she'd denied any problems during their interview. "So what? We just leave her there?" I asked, panic rising in my throat. Aunt Lisa shook her head. "We're not giving up. We just need to be smart about this. For the next few days, I stayed at Aunt Lisa's house, jumping every time the phone rang. I tried texting Lily, but her responses were short and vague. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Stay away for your own good. Aunt Lisa went back to my parents' house twice, ostensibly to check on things and bring some more of my stuff, but really to try to talk to Lily alone. She never managed it. My parents were always hovering, never leaving Lily alone with her. A week passed, then another. I started going to school again, taking the bus from Aunt Lisa's house. I'd see Lily in the hallways, but she'd avoid my eyes, walking quickly in the other direction if she saw me coming. It broke my heart. Then one day, about 3 weeks after I'd left home, Lily wasn't at school. I texted her, but got no response. I called the house, but no one answered. Panic clawed at my chest as I went through the rest of my classes, unable to focus on anything. After school, I took the bus to my old neighborhood instead of back to Aunt Lisa's. I had to see if Lily was okay. As I walked up our street, I noticed my dad's car was gone, but my mom's was still in the driveway. That was unusual. My mom almost never stayed home alone. I hesitated at the front door, then decided to try the back. Using my old key, I quietly let myself in through the kitchen door. The house was silent. No TV, no voices, nothing. I crept through the kitchen toward the stairs, my heart pounding. Lily? I called softly. Mom? No answer. I went upstairs, checking Lily's room first. It was empty, her bed neatly made. My old room was untouched, like a museum to my former life. My parents' room door was closed. I hesitated, then slowly turned the knob. My mom was lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling, an empty med bottle on the nightstand beside her. For one horrible moment, I thought she was dead, but then she blinked slowly, turning her head to look at me. Laura? She slurred, her eyes unfocused. What are you doing here? Where's Lily? I demanded, fear making my voice sharp. Gone, my mom mumbled. With your father. He said they needed time alone. Ice flooded my veins. Where did they go? When are they coming back? Dunno, she said, her eyes drifting closed again. Cabin, maybe. Your father's so angry these days. The cabin. My dad's hunting cabin up in the mountains, about 2 hours away. We'd gone there a few times when I was younger, before Lily was born. It was isolated, miles from the nearest neighbor. I backed out of the room, pulling out my phone to call Aunt Lisa. No signal. Of course, my parents' bedroom was always a dead zone. I ran downstairs to use the landline, but the cord had been ripped out of the wall. Panic rising, I ran back outside and down the street until my phone showed bars again. I called Aunt Lisa, my words tumbling out in a rush. Slow down, she said. You're at your parents' house? Is Lily there? No, she's with Dad at the cabin. Mom's here, but she's all drugged up on something. I think Dad's going to hurt Lily. I'm calling the police, Aunt Lisa said firmly. Stay where you are. I'm coming to get you. There's no time, I said. The cabin's 2 hours away. I'm going to take Mom's car. Laura, no. You don't even have a license. But I'd already made up my mind. I hung up and ran back to the house, grabbing my mom's purse from the kitchen counter and fishing out her car keys. I'd driven a few times with my dad, and once with Aunt Lisa. I could do this. The drive was terrifying. I white-knuckled it the whole way, staying exactly at the speed limit, paranoid about getting pulled over. My phone kept ringing. Aunt Lisa probably. But I couldn't answer while driving. I just focused on the road, on getting to Lily. It was starting to get dark by the time I turned onto the dirt road leading to the cabin. I unalived the headlights and parked a little way down the road, not wanting to announce my arrival. My dad's truck was parked outside the cabin, confirming my worst fears. I crept closer, staying in the trees. Light spilled from the cabin windows, and I could hear my dad's voice, though not what he was saying. I circled around to the back, where I knew there was a small window into the bathroom. Standing on tiptoe, I peered inside. The cabin was just one big room with a bathroom off to the side. I could see my dad pacing back and forth, gesturing angrily. Lily was sitting on the old couch, her knees pulled up to her chest, making herself as small as possible. She didn't look hurt, but her face was pale with fear. Ruined everything, I heard my dad saying as I strained to listen. Your sister and her big mouth. CPS is watching us now. Do you know what that means? Lily shook her head, not speaking. It means we have to be more careful, he continued. No more mistakes. No more evidence. My blood ran cold. What was he planning? I needed to get Lily out of there, but how? I wasn't strong enough to fight my dad, and I didn't have a weapon. My phone vibrated in my pocket, making me jump. I backed away from the window to check it. Multiple missed calls from Aunt Lisa and a text. Police on their way to cabin. ETA 30 minutes. Stay away. 30 minutes. That felt like forever. What if my dad did something to Lily before then? I couldn't just wait. I crept around to the front of the cabin, trying to come up with a plan. The front door would be locked, but I remembered there was a spare key hidden under a fake rock by the porch steps. If I could get inside, maybe I could grab Lily and run before my dad caught us. I was so focused on finding the fake rock that I didn't hear the cabin door open until it was too late. My dad stepped out onto the porch, lighting a cigarette. I froze, crouched in the shadows just a few feet away. He took a long drag, then called back into the cabin. I'm going to check the truck. Don't move. I pressed myself against the side of the cabin as he walked past, holding my breath. Once he was at the truck, rummaging in the bed for something, I made my decision. It was now or never. I darted up the porch steps and through the still open door. Lily looked up, her eyes widening in shock. Laura, what are you? Shh, I hissed, grabbing her arm. We have to go now. She hesitated for just a second, then nodded, standing up. We ran for the back door, but just as we reached it, we heard my dad's footsteps on the porch. Hide, Lily whispered, pushing me toward the bathroom. I ducked inside just as the front door opened. Through the crack in the door, I watched as my dad came back in, a coil of rope in his hands. Where do you think you're going? He asked Lily, his voice dangerously soft. Nowhere, she said quickly. I just needed to stretch my legs. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded, seemingly satisfied. Sit down. We need to talk about what happens next. Lily sat back on the couch, her eyes flicking briefly toward the bathroom where I was hiding. My dad set the rope down on the table and sat across from her. You know I love you, right? He said, his voice suddenly gentle. Everything I've done has been to make you stronger. Lily nodded mechanically, her face blank. I recognized that look. It was the same one she'd worn for years at home, a mask to hide her true feelings. But your sister doesn't understand that, he continued. She thinks I'm the bad guy. She's turned everyone against us. What are we going to do? Lily asked, her voice small. My dad leaned forward, taking her hands in his. We're going to start fresh. Just you and me. somewhere new, where no one knows us. My heart raced. He was planning to take Lily away, to disappear with her. I couldn't let that happen. I looked around the bathroom for something, anything I could use as a weapon. There was nothing but towels and toilet paper. Then I spotted my dad's hunting rifle, propped in the corner of the main room, just visible through the crack in the door, if I could get to it. But no, that was crazy. I'd never fired a G in my life, but maybe I didn't need to. Maybe just pointing it at him would be enough to scare him into letting us go. I heard sirens in the distance, faint but getting louder. My dad heard them too, his head snapping up. "What the hell?" he muttered, going to the window. "Did you call someone?" he demanded, turning back to Lily. "No," she said, genuine fear in her voice. "I swear." He stared at her for a moment, then his eyes drifted to the bathroom door. "Is someone else here?" Before Lily could answer, he strode toward the bathroom. I backed up against the shower, looking desperately for a way out, but there was nowhere to go. The door flew open, and there was my dad, his face contorted with rage. "You!" he spat, grabbing my arm and dragging me out. "I should have known." "Dad, stop!" Lily cried, jumping up from the couch. "Don't hurt her!" The sirens were louder now, unmistakable. My dad's grip on my arm tightened painfully. "You called the cops," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "After everything I've done for you." "You haven't done anything for me," I said, finding my courage. "All you've done is hurt Lily and make me watch." His face twisted, and for a second I thought he was going to hit me, but then Lily was there, pushing between us. "It's over, Dad," she said, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. "I'm not going anywhere with you." The look on his face was terrifying, pure, unfiltered rage. He shoved Lily aside, sending her stumbling into the table and raised his hand to strike me. I closed my eyes, bracing for the blow, but it never came. There was a loud crash, and when I opened my eyes, my dad was on the ground, and Lily was standing over him with a broken lamp in her hands, breathing hard. "Let's go," she said, grabbing my hand. We ran out the front door just as police cars came skidding into the clearing, lights flashing. Aunt Lisa's car was right behind them, and she leaped out, running toward us with her arms outstretched. As the police officers rushed past us into the cabin, Aunt Lisa pulled us both into a tight hug. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" We both shook our heads, too overwhelmed to speak. Over Aunt Lisa's shoulder, I watched as the officers brought my dad out in handcuffs, his face bloody from where Lily had hit him. He looked straight at us, his eyes burning with hatred. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of him. With Lily beside me and Aunt Lisa's arms around us both, I knew we were finally safe. The next few days were a complete blur. The cops took our statements right there at the cabin, asking us a million questions while I held Lily's hand so tight my knuckles turned white. She didn't let go either, not once. Aunt Lisa stayed with us the whole time, jumping in whenever the questions got too intense or when one of us started crying. I kept expecting to feel relieved or happy or something, but mostly I just felt numb, like my brain couldn't process that it was actually over, that my dad was really gone. They took him straight to jail that night. The officers told us he was being charged with child endangerment, making criminal threats, and a bunch of other stuff I can't remember now. One of the cops mentioned something about flight risk, since he'd been planning to take Lily away. When we finally got back to Aunt Lisa's house, it was like 3 a.m. We were both too wired to sleep, so we just sat on her couch drinking hot chocolate while Aunt Lisa made a million phone calls. I remember Lily looking at me with these huge eyes and saying, "I can't believe you came for me," like it was surprising or something, as if I would ever leave her behind. The next morning, a social worker named Marissa came to talk to us. She had this super gentle voice and kept offering us snacks every 5 minutes. She explained that we wouldn't be going back to our parents' house, which was fine by me. I never wanted to set foot in that place again. "What about our mom?" Lily asked, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. "Is she in trouble too?" Marissa got this careful look on her face. "Your mother is currently in the hospital. She took some pills, but she's going to be okay physically." I wasn't sure how to feel about that. Part of me was still angry at her for letting everything happen, for choosing my dad over us every single time. But another part remembered how scared she always looked when he got mad, how she flinched when he raised his voice. "Can Aunt Lisa be our guardian?" I asked, getting straight to the point. No way was I going through the foster system or whatever. "That's what we're working on," Marissa said with a smile. "Your aunt has already started the paperwork." The next couple weeks were weird. We stayed with Aunt Lisa while all the legal stuff got sorted out. We had to go to the police station a few more times to answer questions. We met with this lady prosecutor who kept calling us brave young women and promising my dad would pay for what he did. My mom got out of the hospital after a week. She called Aunt Lisa's house a bunch of times, but I refused to talk to her. Lily did, though. She'd take the phone into the guest room and close the door, and I'd hear her voice rising and falling but couldn't make out the words. She never told me what they talked about, and I didn't ask. School was the worst. Everyone knew something had happened, but no one knew exactly what. There were all these rumors flying around. Some people said my dad had tried to cull us. Others said Lily and I had made everything up for attention. A few girls who used to be my friends stopped talking to me completely, like my family drama might be contagious or something. But then this weird thing happened. People I barely knew started being super nice to me. This girl named Tanya, who I'd maybe spoken to twice before, started saving me a seat at lunch. The school counselor, Mr. Reeves, gave me a pass that let me skip class whenever I needed a break. My English teacher stopped calling on me when my hand wasn't raised. One day after gym, I found Lily crying in the bathroom. Some girls had been whispering about her, saying she was making it all up. I got so mad I wanted to punch something. "They don't know anything," I told her, handing her some paper towels. "They weren't there." She wiped her eyes and gave me this little smile. "I know, it just sucks." "Yeah," I agreed. "It really does." The court stuff dragged on forever. My dad kept changing lawyers and trying to get the charges dropped. My mom hired her own lawyer and filed for divorce, which was probably the only smart thing she'd ever done. Aunt Lisa got temporary guardianship of us both, which became permanent after a few months when my mom signed away her rights. I still remember the day we found out my dad was taking a plea deal. Aunt Lisa got the call while we were eating dinner. She stepped into the kitchen to talk, but we could still hear her. 10 years? That's it?" she was saying, her voice tight with anger. "After everything he did?" When she came back to the table, she tried to act normal, but I could tell something was wrong. "What is it?" I asked. She sighed, putting her fork down. "Your father accepted a plea deal. He'll serve 10 years, with possibility of parole after 7. Lily's face went white. 7 years? That's not long enough. I know, sweetie, Aunt Lisa said, reaching for her hand. But the prosecutor said this way you girls won't have to testify in court, and he'll have a permanent record. He'll never be allowed near children again. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted him locked up forever, but another part was relieved we wouldn't have to sit in a courtroom and tell a bunch of strangers all the horrible things he'd done. What about Mom? I asked. She's agreed to supervised visitation, if you girls want that, Aunt Lisa said carefully. But it's completely up to you. Lily looked at me, and I could tell she wanted to say yes. I shrugged. You can if you want. I'm not ready. Life at Aunt Lisa's house was so different from what we were used to. She had actual rules that made sense, like doing your homework before watching TV or texting if you were going to be late. But she never screamed or threatened us or made us feel like we were worthless. She hung our artwork on the fridge and asked about our day, and remembered the names of our friends. The first time I got a B on a math test, I had a full-on panic attack. I was convinced she was going to freak out, maybe even send me back to my parents. Instead, she just asked if I needed help studying for the next one. When I admitted I was struggling with algebra, she hired a tutor. Just like that. No drama, no punishment, no making me feel like I was stupid. Lily started seeing a therapist named Dr. Chen twice a week. After a month, I decided to go too. It was weird at first, talking to a stranger about all the messed up stuff in my head, but it actually helped. Dr. Chen never made me feel crazy for being angry or sad or confused. She just listened and asked questions that made me think. One day, about 6 months after everything went down, Lily came into my room and flopped on my bed. I saw Mom today, she said, staring at the ceiling. I looked up from my homework. How was it? She shrugged. Weird. She cried a lot. Said she was sorry. Do you believe her? I asked. Lily was quiet for a long time. I don't know. Maybe. She seems different without Dad around. Less scared. I nodded, not knowing what to say. I still wasn't ready to see our mom. Wasn't sure if I'd ever be ready. But I was glad Lily had the chance to make her own decision about it. You know what's funny? Lily said suddenly. I used to be so jealous of you. All those years when they treated you like the golden child and me like garbage. I used to lie in bed at night wishing I could be you. I put my pencil down, surprised. Really? I always felt guilty about it. Like it was somehow my fault they liked me better. She turned to look at me. It wasn't your fault. None of it was. You were the only good thing in that house. I felt my eyes getting hot with tears. You were the reason I stayed as long as I did. I couldn't leave you there alone. She reached over and squeezed my hand. I know. Thank you for that. We didn't say anything else. We didn't need to. A year after moving in with Aunt Lisa, we officially changed our last name to hers. It was Lily's idea, and I was on board immediately. I didn't want anything connecting me to my dad anymore. The day the paperwork came through, Aunt Lisa took us out for ice cream to celebrate, and we took a bunch of silly selfies with our new IDs. That night, I had a nightmare about my dad. In the dream, he was out of jail somehow and standing at the foot of my bed. I woke up gasping, my heart racing. Without thinking, I went to Lily's room. She was awake too, sitting up in bed with her reading light on. Bad dream? She asked, scooting over to make room for me. I nodded, climbing in beside her. You too? Yeah, Dr. Chen says they might never go away completely, but they'll get less frequent. Great, I muttered. She laughed a little. I know, right? But hey, at least we're not alone. And that was the thing. Through all the court dates and therapy sessions and nightmares and panic attacks, we had each other. We always had. Last week was my high school graduation. Aunt Lisa threw this huge party for me with balloons and a cake and everything. A bunch of my friends came, and even my mom was there. We're not close or anything, but we're civil now. She's been sober for almost 2 years and has a job at a department store. She brought me a gift card and an awkward hug. Lily's going to be a senior next year. She's already looking at colleges, talking about studying psychology or social work. She wants to help kids like us, she says. I'm taking a gap year to figure out what I want to do. Aunt Lisa says there's no rush, that I have my whole life ahead of me. Sometimes I think about that Christmas when I was 9, when I first realized something was wrong with our family. How I gave Lily my chemistry set when our parents weren't looking. How we played with it in secret, mixing the harmless chemicals and watching them change colors. I never could have imagined then where we'd end up, that we'd escape, that we'd be okay. Yesterday, Lily and I were helping Aunt Lisa plant flowers in her garden. The sun was out, and we were all sweaty and covered in dirt. Lily was telling some story about her friend Dakota's disastrous date, and Aunt Lisa was laughing so hard she snorted, which made us laugh even harder. And I had this moment where I just stopped and looked at them, at my sister and my aunt, at my family, my real family, and I thought, we made it. Against all odds, we actually made it.